Today we're distilling rosemary and we are doing the leaf because, as I said, the material is in the leaf. So we actually have one of our students has arrived, which is wonderful, and I'm wondering if you'd like to come and help harvest. Absolutely. I have some gloves here and I have some secateurs, and if you just want to cut into a bag. And I was just explaining, what was your name again?
Yanni.
Yanni, that's right. Nice to see you, thank you for coming. I was just explaining that the essential oil glands in the rosemary are along the underside of these leaves, and I'm trying to sort of cut it mainly off the pathway here, and then we'll cut into a nice rounded shape, and relocating the ladybugs wherever we find them. And you know, we just cut it just as if you were pruning a regular plant, and then when we take it inside to start to prepare it for the still, we'll actually remove a lot of the leaves from the stem, because there's a couple of different reasons. If you put a lot of stem into the still, the steam doesn't move through the plant material evenly, and so you lose a lot of the potential oil. You get what's called rat holes in the still, which isn't very effective. And the other reason is the ketone, which is the camphor, I believe is more in the stem, and the borneol acetate, which is the ester, which is the anti-inflammatory in this plant, is mainly in the leaf. And so we can adjust the end product somewhat by being sure that we put in the still only the best quality, and also the part of the plant that has what we want. Hi there, thank you for coming. Absolutely. Cindy.
Yes.
Yannick.
Hi, very good to meet you.
And you just enrolled in
Nat 212.
Nat 212, that's right, we talked about that yesterday, and Yannick is in...
I'm doing Nat 210 and Herb 101. Oh, yeah. Braver soul than I.
So terrific. So what we're doing is harvesting, just, you know, trimming off this main area here, making it into a nice rounded shape, being careful not to bruise and damage it too much, making cuts where it's going to also, you know, put out a shoot in a nice way. I've got some more cutters here and some gloves.
Oh, okay, so I can learn.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, these are stuck together.
Thank you.
And there's a couple of bags here. Good old IKEA bags. Thank you. Yes, all along here, up around here, and we'll just keep harvesting. I was just talking about, we're going to be harvesting, you know, quite a lot of stem, but when we take it inside, we're actually going to be taking the leaf off the stem, because the ester in this plant is what we really want to ensure we get the most of. Esters in plants are anti-inflammatories, and this is a wonderful anti-inflammatory. I was just talking about how great it is for analgesic rubs. It's wonderful mixed with peppermint and black pepper. It's called a rubefacient, so it brings blood to an area, and it might feel hot when you put it on initially, but that's really a good sign, because it's bringing all that blood to the area, bringing nutrients and increasing nutrient flow, and then also taking away material like the lactic acid buildup, really assisting with congestion. So as you can tell, I'm in love with rosemary. It's also very good for memory.
Oh, that's
so whenever you're doing your exams, take a bottle of rosemary oil and massage your scalp. So let's harvest as we talk.
Is there a note or something that I'm looking for that I want to
I'm just cutting down to a, I mean, really you can't go too wrong, because there's a lot of, you can see where these are coming out, these little shoots. So just cut to a shoot, and we can tidy it up later anyway, so don't worry too much. Now ideally this should be harvested for distillation just before it flowers, or just as it flowers, and as you can see here, the flowering is over. You know, it's always hard to arrange your life to do things at the very best time. So rather than not do it at all, I'm a great believer in spontaneity, and if something occurs to you, you know, if you're in the mood, if you want to do it, I'm a great believer in just going for it and doing it.
Just go ahead and do it.
Yes, just go ahead and do it. And it might not be as ideal, but we're still going to be getting a very interesting product.
Does it diminish the potency slightly? Or
That's a very good question. Does harvesting it at not the ideal time decrease the potency? You know, I would normally say yes, that is correct. But really, rather than thinking about it as decreasing the potency, it's just going to create a somewhat different constituent blend. I mean, essential oils are a very complex array of constituents, as is any plant. Even, you know, if you make a tincture, if you make an extract, if you make an infusion, if you make a decoction, you're actually extracting different constituents. Some constituents will dissolve into water, some don't. Like alkaloids will partially dissolve into water, but pretty much fully dissolve into alcohol. Whereas, you know, vitamins and minerals will come out into the water, so you're not really going to get that in a tincture. But an essential oil is taking out the volatile material, which you're going to get a very marginal amount out in a tincture, which is with alcohol, or or water. So it just really depends. And some plants won't give their volatile material even to steam. I mean, we're going to be doing steam water distillation today, but some plants won't give their volatile material to steam. So some plants you can't even distill. You actually have to extract with a solvent and then volatilize off the solvent. So it's just getting to know the plant. So it isn't that it's diminished, it's just going to be different. And of course, if we had a gas chromatographic mass spectrometer piece of equipment in our lab, we could actually test exactly what is in this oil that we make today, which would be wonderful. I'd love to be able to do that. But being that we don't have that very expensive piece of equipment, we can't. But we can certainly do what's called organoleptic testing on it, which when you study the aromatherapy classes, that's what you're learning to do. And you're really training your olfactory system to become very sensitive to the nuances of aroma. Some distillers, for example, can recognize over 200 constituents just by smell. So, you know, they could bruise this leaf and smell it and say, oh, it's really high in camphor, it doesn't have much borneol acetate right now, therefore we won't harvest it. So that's really what you're learning when you start to use your olfactory system. And that's even a very useful thing when you're becoming a medical or master herbalist, is to develop your olfactory, because you want to be really, you know, in touch with the plant. This hops has decided to take a liking to me. It's sticking to my... So you do want to develop a relationships with the plant. And you know, I find whenever I go out walking, one of the things I love to do is I'm always stopping and taking a snippet of plant and smelling it and looking at leaf shapes and trying to identify, and it's a fascinating hobby, and it's really something you can do no matter where you are, no matter what country you're in, and it really helps you to start to develop an awareness of plants, and like I said, really develop your olfactory. Of course, with